Okay, good morning everyone. It's Gareth here. I'm going to be doing the commentary on my own this morning. Obviously first match at 9 AM. There's not too many people about. Goes without saying that this is a massive match because we know this qualifies to the quarters. It's a nice position to be in because the loser also only has to win one more match. You have to win one out of the next two matches to qualify. But it's always better to get it done here, get it out of the way and have a few hours off, get some lunch and come back fresh for the quarters. So it is a big match. Really good shot there from Karl. Played a bad shot the shot before. He tried to nudge the black out of the way and land on the red into the middle. That's a good recovery and he's perfect now. Just got too low on the cue ball, and I think that wasn't the bad shot. I think the bad shot was maybe the shot before, and I said he was perfect, and he just dropped the ball into the middle. He played it a little bit too hard and left himself the wrong angle. I think he wanted to leave himself straight on that one down the rail, and he could have just almost stunned it in and then potted the red into the top left corner. And bad news for that for Karl, because obviously he's missed the red, but he's also left Ronan the perfect angle on his first ball here to pot this and just drop off the side cushion a little bit aside and take his bad ball out of the way. Ronan's also got the other ball that's over the right middle. That'll be his last ball to just drop down for the black, so it's going to be the two yellows that are on the baulk line, then the yellow into the left middle, and then the one that I said last just to drop down for the black. These couldn't be easy. He hasn't got to do anything with the cue ball. It's all just little stun shots. These two have obviously played well in this tournament so far. I haven't seen any or much of their matches, but I've seen the results, and Ronan's had a lot of close matches. But this is a new day, and it's important to get off to a good start. You never know how you're going to play. Like I say, I'm sure everyone knows that 8-ball is 8-ball, and one day you can feel great and feel like you can't miss, and then for sort of no explained reason, the next day you just feel completely different. Sometimes you even feel different on the cue. Everything just feels different, and you're never quite sure what's going to happen, especially the start of a new day. So it is nice to get off to a good start. Today is the big day. The tournament almost starts again from the quarterfinals. I think the way to treat tournaments like this that are double elimination is sort of first stage of it is to qualify for the quarters, and then treat it as that it does start again. So Ronan's own technique of racking the balls up using the short rack. He places the short rack down, racks the balls up in the triangle, and then drops it on. Oh, very lucky, and he did apologise. Ronan and Karl had a bit of a laugh to each other there, and there was obviously a huge rivalry between these two. Obviously Ronan from the north and Karl, arguably the best player from the south, and obviously Ronan unquestionably the best player from the north, and they've obviously played a few money matches, big money matches against each other, but that's all obviously in the past now, and I think they are friends now. And the break there, obviously Ronan did it the break bad because the cue ball was about an inch from going into the left corner pocket, and he did screw directly back, so it is a bad shot to screw back and off. And he Ronan played that shot for me like a world rule shot. Sorry, like a black ball shot where it was almost just as if it was an open table. But obviously, once he'd nominated yellows, he was on yellows. So had he have potted one of those reds into the middle, which was millimetres from happening, that obviously would have been a foul. Where at black ball rules, it wouldn't have been. So I think he was quite lucky, not only on the break, but certainly that last shot there, that if that red drops in, it's a foul. He's hit this nice though. Really nice. Hit it softly. Got the action on the cue ball. That's what's known as the fist bridge hand. Strange looking. So I've never seen anyone do that before. A little bit shorter pace. Wanted the cue ball sort of somewhere near the black. That's perfect. He couldn't have played that any better from where he was. I'm sitting behind this black, and if the white was right behind it, I think he could drop it into the middle, but from where he is, the black's tough, so he's taking it into the corner. I can only presume that he played to play on it in that corner and he just got into the cue ball a little bit too much. Two reds that are together on the line. The bottom one of those does pop. I think it's Karl's turn to get lucky this time. Because I think he's. I don't think there was any need to touch that ball on the rail. I wouldn't have touched it. Because he had the perfect ball over the middle to just drop it in and just drop it down the rail. I mean, these tables are brand new, the cloths are brand new, so I don't think you need to be kicking balls off the rail, certainly from there. When I said it was Karl's turn to get lucky, I thought that he'd knocked it into a plant, but obviously he hadn't. He's played a good shot there. Ronan only has one line into it, and that's off this left side cushion. When the cue ball hits the rail so soon, and then has the longer angle, the wider angle to travel to the black, it's always hard to judge the angle, especially on a brand new table. Oh, he's looking at going twice across, but I'm not sure that angle's there on. Or maybe it is. I was just going to say I'm not sure it's there because the cushion slides so much. He's got to get really close to the red that's in the middle of the table if he plays this way. Yeah, I think the line is there actually, but he has got to get quite close to the red. And because of that, he hit the red. Obviously at World Rules, sometimes if you work out the percentages of actually getting out of that snooker and then potting the black or leaving the cue ball in a position where Karl's in trouble, it's very, very low. So sometimes at World Rules, you're better off just making it difficult and making Karl take the finish out with one shot rather than two. So what I mean by that is you sort of reside to the fact that you're going to lose the frame. So you just want to make it as hard as possible and at least make your opponent do something rather than just let him roll 4 or 5 balls in with 2 shots. I think that maybe that's what Ronan should have done there, whether that meant pushing another ball on the rail or just rolling the cue ball up behind a red and making him waste a shot. I think that was probably the right thing to do. Obviously you can miss with 1 shot, where with 2 shots you can't really miss. Karl's obviously coming into this event off the back of a good win in a money match against Clint Jansen last week. They played over in Ireland, and I think they have it's a double match, so they have a return leg over in England, I think, early September. I've seen Karl play a couple of money matches. Well, quite a few actually. I've seen him play Ronan 2 or 3 times. I've seen him play Farnsworth. And certainly lately, he has definitely improved a lot. He's got a big break and he cues the ball nice. And I did think it was about time he started taking some of that sort of money match form into a tournament. It's very different. You have to play obviously better for longer periods of time over longer days in a tournament. It's not just about playing well for one match. And didn't hit that break as hard as he normally does, I don't think. But I was saying yesterday, I don't think you have to hit the break that hard. It's obviously not a given to make a ball, but he couldn't have left too many easier finishes. The only problem yellow is the one near the right middle, the one that's closest to the red. But because where the other yellow is, he'll just leave himself an angle on that and just bump into the red. So of course he can play the plant first shot to take the bad yellow out, and the angle that it is, the red will also go onto the rail if he plays that first shot. So I do think these finishes are where you need to sort of almost maybe just get on with it a little bit. You've got a finish that is sort of unmissable, really. And I understand there's a balance of taking care and making sure you're not careless, especially on a finish like this, because if you miss this mentally, it's obviously very hard, because when you see the balls like this, you've almost subconsciously give yourself the frame. But I do think there's a balance of looking for problems, maybe. Played that nice. He's got the angle, and they're basically all over the pocket now. Well, he couldn't have put the cue ball in a worse place. I can't believe he didn't top that with right-hand side and send the cue ball down the left-hand side of the table. He literally could not have finished in a worse place other than probably behind the reds. Criminal to be short as well. You see, that's exactly what I mean. You know, sometimes you take a little bit too long and you end up sort of just getting yourself in a little bit of a pickle with everything by looking for problems and worrying about, rather than just getting on with it and just potting the balls. They were that easy that you couldn't really miss them unless something major happened, like a kick. But just think in general, when they're easy, it's better to just get on with it. You have to keep things as close to normal and as close to practice as you possibly can. And if you were practicing, or if Ronan was practicing, he definitely wouldn't have took that long on that finish. So I do think it's important to keep things as normal or as close to what you you do every day or every time you practice. So what, there's 6 balls past the bulk line, and the other 2 are basically on the line. So there's sort of 8 balls from the bulk line down almost. Didn't make one and hasn't left the easiest of first shots because the red that the cue ball's closest to I don't think goes across the back rail. The red that's closest to the bulk line there doesn't pass, I don't think, the other red into the middle. So I think the only pot that he's got is maybe the, I think the yellow maybe passes into the middle maybe, but still leaves a bit of a problem with the yellows down there in the bulk end. So Ronan quite fortunate there really. He obviously didn't make a ball, but things are a little bit smelly really. And Karl's basically saying this is the black. Wow, what a shot. Really, really good shot that. That just goes to show how confident he is and how confident he is in and belief he has in his own technique and cue action to play that shot first. Really impressed with that shot. Ronan did actually acknowledge it as well and tapped his leg. Couldn't not really appreciate that shot. I don't have any access to the live scores on the computer in front of me, but if any of you want to check it out, you can get onto Q Score. Some good matches actually going on today. I think John Rowe's playing against Craig Marsh. Mark Farnsworth's playing Dempsey. Clint Hanson's playing. And having potted an unbelievable ball under the circumstances, first shot, he's then played a stinker. Because the reason why it is a complete stinker is because he's left Ronan on the yellow to the left, the bottom left, and when he moves that out of the way, the other 2 yellows then go into that left corner. He hasn't covered the right pocket for the other ball, so Ronan will definitely be playing the one into this bottom left corner, or top left corner, should I say, first. Cushions do play very fast. They almost play like steel blocks. They have had special clamps fitted that don't come standard on a Supreme table, which on standard Supreme tables that haven't got these, sometimes the cushions can play very spongy and very sort of inconsistent. So they have been modified to try and get the cushions to bounce the way they should and evenly. But I do think this table in particular, the cushions do seem very fast. And when Ronan potted that first ball, I think he felt like he got a big bounce and the cue ball flew up. But he's actually perfect now, and that's what we're saying. This ball does pass, and then the other two do pass into the left corner. All of the simple things that supposedly look simple and supposed to be simple, Ronan does make them look simple. Having said that, he has let the cue ball run out probably an inch further than he wanted to there, but in general his cue ball control is good, and like I said, the finishes that you're supposed to get, he does get every time. Because the cue ball is smaller than the object balls, when the cue ball lands so close like that to the object ball and you've got to directly bridge over, sometimes you do feel like you have to get your hand higher because the cue ball's small and you feel like it's just hidden behind the ball. You feel like you sort of can't get to the striking point. Ronan's just taking a toilet break, so we'll pick it back up when he comes back. couldn't have come out any better. I do have the live chat up now, so if anyone wants to ask any questions, obviously sensible ones, that is, I can see it now. And although this is obviously a race to 11, it's a big frame for Karl. This obviously 4-1 down. It's not panic stations, but it isn't easy to relax when you always feel like you're chasing. Karl's cue action is very sort of flat. The cue and his whole body is very parallel. Which means that he's not going to flick too much on wanted side on. Or if he does flick a bit of unwanted side on, the cue ball's not really going to push off line too much. The steeper you are, the more you're effectively going to swerve the cue ball if you do catch a bit of unwanted side. Karl is actually very flat on the cue. It's a right old procedure, isn't it, for Ronan to rack the balls up. He wouldn't have loads of finesse in those fingers, Ronan. They're well weathered, those, with his job, and he finds it a bit fiddly to mess around putting the balls in the rack. He gets off of them in and then puts one in and drops it and scatters the rest everywhere, so he opts to use the triangle and drop them in. Joshua Gilmore said he met me at the money match versus Karl. Absolute gent. Cheers, pal. I would imagine there's quite a few people from Ireland, north and south, with an interest on this game. Not to mention anyone that's had a bet. I can tell you that Karl was favourite with the bookies at the start of this match. And for me, that can only be purely based on the way that Karl's played over the last 2 days. Like I said, I haven't seen any of or much of these matches, but Karl's wins have been a lot more convincingly, but either way, Ronan's still also been winning. And if I was the bookmaker, I'm not sure I'd have had. I agree, it's very close to mark up, but I'm not sure I'd have had Karl favourite. But sometimes the prices are reflected by where the money has gone. Hello, Pips. Yeah, so Pips is watching, and yeah, you're right. Those rods of Macca's there's not too much give in them, so it's safer for him to use the triangle, I think. So Josh was asked, who do I fancy to make the final? Well, I think obviously the quarter-final draw, it's completely redrawn. That's obviously massive, the draw. And there's still a lot of pool to be played yet to determine who will qualify through, certainly through the loser side. Obviously the winner of this match qualifies, and the loser gets another chance, so has to play one more match to qualify. But there is another still 2 or 3 rounds being played from players that have lost earlier that have to obviously go the long way around. So I think maybe better to ask me that question when the last 8's done and the draw's been done. But there's still a lot of good players in. Obviously, Farnsworth still battling away in the loser's side. Clint still battling away in the loser's side. Marsh, John Rowe, Yannick, Hibbert. You can't keep track of all those scores on the live Q score. James Croxton lost to Ronan last night, and he's playing on just the next table here, so you can just see where Ronan's legs are there, just to the left-hand side. Jimmy's playing, I think he's playing one of the Maltese lads, and every time I've looked over there, Jimmy's been at the table, so I presume he's winning. Also the same with Farnsworth. I haven't got any access to any of the scores here, but every time I look over, he's a couple of tables down. He seems to be at the table all the time. Yannick seems to be at the table all the time, but it could still be the first frame. Yeah, so someone's asked, do I recommend practicing? Yeah, I think you need to find a balance of playing actual frames, because at the end of the day, 8-ball is about the patterns. So you do need to be accustomed and improve the way you're going about the finishes, and that only comes from playing frames and learning which balls to take in which order. But I also think there's the other side of it, of practicing, obviously, the tough shots. He's just mentioned there, he's seen me do the rail routine where you put all the balls on the rail, and that was something that I used to practice quite a lot as well at English pool. You know, because let's be honest, if you miss a ball, you know, on an English table, generally, you know, it's probably going to be a ball that's down the rail or close to the rail, because, you know, when they're in the middle of a table, then you shouldn't really be missing them. So I think it's important to practice the shots which are the hardest. Karl didn't go the A1 route there. He missed the cannon early on, which meant that he was sort of always chasing the finish a little bit, but he did well and still got there. Yeah, he's also a question about the tip, the shape of your tip. Yeah, I think it's important to have it somewhere in the middle of what he's asked there, of being more domed or more flat. I think it needs to just have the correct sort of dome on it, so not too domed to the point where it's to a point, but not too flat as though it's flat as if you've just cut it with a knife. I think it's just a standard dome is where you need to be at with it, and he's asked, does that improve the screw back? And obviously it does improve the strike of the cue ball. The tip needs to be right, but ultimately the screw back comes from your cue action and the timing. Once again, Karl sort of left with a sort of nasty sort of first shot, really. And I think he's nominated yellows and he's going to play a safety. Which means it is an open table. Yeah, Adam, it is the business end today. It's obviously nice to do well, get to the quarters, the semis, but you don't really get remembered for that, so everyone is here to win. And I'm sure all of the players that are left in now, anything but a win, they would see as maybe a disappointment. And if they don't, then they should see it as a disappointment, because all of the players that are left in now are, or most are, of the names that you would expect to be left in. Collins asked how do a fine moving from a 8.5mm tip to like the 11 at the Chinese, and obviously at the start, but you know, if you when you're practicing after a while, that just becomes what you're used to. And obviously I've played the Chinese now for sort of 6 years, so when I actually look at an English cue or even a snooker cue now, it looks like a bit of a toothpick to me. I presume that Ronan can see the yellow that's on the rail, so I don't see why he doesn't just play that yellow and just stun the cue ball back to where it was. Okay, Shane's asked why don't I play? Because the dates clash with my China commitments. I've only just come back from China a couple of days ago, and I was still supposed to be there for another 5 days. So I knew that I was going to be missing 3 of the 4 events, which means I wouldn't qualify to play in the grand final. So effectively, I'd miss 4 out of the 5 events. So China's the priority. So maybe next year, if the dates allow, I'll play. Joshua says Scrappy. I know Ray said he thinks maybe the Scrappy games suit Karl more, and I probably agree with Joshua. I think that the Scrappy frames probably suit Ronan more. Both players want reds here, obviously, and just got to be a little bit careful. Karl obviously does pot good, so especially from Ronan's point of view, you know, he needs to be a little bit careful where he leaves him. Well, I said both players want reds, and Ronan may have to go yellows now.
It's not too bad to go yellows if he can play the 3-ball plant, and when he plays the 3-ball plant, he needs to play the yellow either cushion first or play it half ball directly off the red, so the yellow that he's hitting comes out into the table somewhere. No, the people are saying on the Joshua's saying 3-ball plant red in the middle. No, he can't make the red into the middle. I think that the yellow's too far in. The red doesn't go off the yellow, so he's going to have to go yellows. I think he's okay to play the 3-ball plant, and I think he can pot the yellow if he plays maybe the first yellow into the cushion first. Either way, he's not sure. He's taking his time on it. Well, he'll take this. He'll definitely take this. Because now he can definitely play the 3-ball plant on that, what I said. And he's disturbed the 3 balls that were a little bit awkward and landed on one of them into the middle, or on the middle one into the corner. And if he can pot the middle one of those 3 yellows, if he can pot that one into the corner, he could maybe play a little sort of stun run through and just bump the red out of the way. He is looking at that, and I think that angle is there. He's just got to be careful he doesn't push that red on top of the black. He wants sort of the red clear of the black. He is playing the shot, I think that I said, but he wants to be careful where he pushes the red. Ronan played the cue ball there because he would have just snicked off the yellow that's on the rail and just bumped the other one, bumped the white into the red and bumped the other one in and just flicked the yellow out. He did play the cue ball somewhere near there, obviously just missed the pot. He hasn't got too many options of first shots here, so he'll probably play the cross double. He's revving up at this one as well. One of those, little bit unlucky, little bit sort of lucky. Maybe lucky not to going off in the middle, but the whites actually hit the knuckle and couldn't finish any further away from these reds, but he isn't phased by any of these sort of long balls, and I think he has got an angle if he pots the 2 reds on the left. If he pots the right one of those, I think he has got an angle to go into the other 3 balls that are together. very, very good pot. He never looks like missing one of those type of shots to me. The fact that he, as I was mentioning, his cue is so flat, so parallel, it helps so much on those shots. But he doesn't look like missing one of those. And in all fairness to him, he couldn't have gone probably too much worse. Adams asked, "Sorry, pal, I don't have any score updates in front of me." You can go onto the Q score and check them for yourself. On the arena table behind me, I know that Mick Hill is beating Karl Sutton 6-2, and that's all I know. I can tell you that, like I said, I just seen that Croxton seems to be at the table all the time, and so does Farnsworth. I don't think he played it like that, but he'll take it. I don't think he played to... Dunster 6-1 down. Who's Dunster playing? He looked the most solid player yesterday out of everyone by a mile, to be honest. So that's definitely a shock, and that's exactly what I said about today being a different day. You never quite know. And that is the difference between the prolific winners. They are just a lot more consistent. Yeah, to be honest, Pablo there says that obviously Jordan's beating Phil Harrison 5-2. For me, that's not a shock. Jordan's got huge firepower when he gets it going. Capable of sort of blowing anybody off the table. But he is one of those players where certainly maybe a few years ago he was also capable of getting blown off the table by anyone at the very next match, where I think maybe that consistency has improved. All right, yeah, Dunster against McAllister. Yeah, well, McAllister has got firepower as well when he gets it going. And just as I was saying how good Karl's sort of long game is, he just cut straight across that one, cued across it, and stunned off in the middle. Complete different mindset, of course, at World Rules to Black Ball, and even in this sort of instance. Obviously, at Black Ball rules, you get the free shot, so you would definitely take the red off the pocket first shot. Where at World Rules, you can't play that shot, so it's just it'd just be about keeping hold of your 2 shots for the black. I did say before, like the die-hard World Rules players, the people that only play World Rules, they do sometimes get themselves in a little bit of a situation trying to keep hold of the 2 shots maybe more than they need to. It's like they just want to keep hold of the 2 shots and take them home with it. Take the 2 shots home with them. Like sometimes they think that if they pot the black and get down to the black and still keep the 2 shots, they keep them the next frame sort of thing, and they do get themselves into trouble sometimes trying to keep hold of them. But in this instance, obviously Ronan will keep hold of his 2 shots for the black. I think here for Ronan, you don't try and get too cute with this. I think you just pot it and leave the right angle, maybe on the where you just sort of double the black around the 2 cushions, or even play the cross double. Shane Sexton said he backed Malin outright with a crying face. I don't think he had the best preparation for this tournament, Malin. He was out in Ibiza for a week leading up to it. So I don't think that's the best preparation, to be honest, for a big event, but don't know if he's gone to the toilet or gone to the bar, but I think he's got lost. The cue that Ronan is breaking with actually is one of my cue ranges from China. Obviously playing with an 11.5mm tip should be easier to find the middle of the cue ball, which means that you should be easier to hit the front ball flush with no side, but he's struggling with it at the minute. He keeps sort of catching the front ball, 3/4 ball, and that's why the cue ball keeps sort of tracking close to the corners. Both these players are taking the time this morning, and of course they understand how important this match is. They qualify for the quarters, but I do think it's important to get into a rhythm as well. It's you need to find the balance, excuse me, of just not sort of slowing yourself down too much and making sure you take enough care. There is a fine line, I think. Yeah, of course, and you know you need to be potting off the break to go deep in this tournament. It doesn't matter who you are. You can't possibly win this tournament if you're not potting balls off the break. The standard's too high. Ew, I couldn't have gone much worse. And I said to you about when the cue ball was smaller than the object balls, you have to get a little bit higher. Wow, fair play to Karl there. He's called a foul on himself. You obviously know 99% of the time if you touch a ball, you either hear it or you feel it. And fair play to Karl there. He obviously either felt it or heard it, and straight away he looked over at Ronan and said it was 2 shots. Ronan never said a word. He called it on himself, so massive respect for that. Obviously the way it should be, and but this is obviously a big match, and not everyone, I can assure you, would call that. So yeah, massive respect, and definitely gone up in my estimations with that. Fair play to him. He did hit it very hard though. I think if he thought he dropped it in, maybe the cue ball was going close to the side rail. It's crazy, really, how they, in my opinion, how they still play with the cue ball being a different size to the other balls. There's no reason why the cue ball shouldn't be exactly the same size and the same weight as the object balls. It originates from using a smaller cue ball from the olden days when they had pool tables in the sort of bars and the pubs where when you potted the cue ball it would track inside, obviously down a different route and come out a different end. Otherwise you'd have to put your money in again, obviously, to get the cue ball out. Well, obviously gone are them days. Most of the tables now are all the domestic type. All the balls come out one end. So there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't play with the cue ball the same size and weight as the object balls. And it does make, in my opinion, the game much better. You are able to play a more array of shots with the cue ball being the same weight and size as the object balls. I did say also that the cushions look very fast to me on there, and it absolutely flew off the first cushion there. He has got 2 shots, but it's almost harder to set it up here than pot it in one. That's why he's just gone for it. Yeah, and just going back to the cue ball, and that's what I was meaning by when you're playing it, when you're Chinese snookered. Just seeing Craig Marsh wrap the table against John Rowe. It's typical Marsh. Temperament's terrible, and to go deep in these tournaments, you need to have a good temperament. Yeah, so the cue ball, obviously, when you're bridging over a ball, it is hard because the cue ball is smaller, so it's hard to sort of get to the top of the cue ball. You have to feel like you have to get your hand really high, and the same when the cue ball's close to the cushion. When the cue ball's like touching the cushion, you almost feel as though you have to sort of raise the butt of the cue to get to the top of the cue ball, otherwise you're going to miss cue. And obviously that's not the way it should be. The cue ball shouldn't hide under the rail. But that's just my opinion, and they are using the balls that they're using. And meanwhile, Karl has hit an horrendous break. To stun Strachan off in the middle is a terrible shot because it means that you've effectively hit the front ball, half ball. And that's how quickly it can change. He was on what was almost for him a given finish to go 4 each. And in a couple of minutes' time, he's probably going to be now 6-3 down. I'll say a few minutes. Ronan doesn't mind taking his time in this match so far, so might be 4 or 5 minutes, but I don't think he'll miss these. Yeah, so Adam's asking, so why isn't the ball the same size? What's the reason? That's what I just explained. The reason that they used a smaller cue ball was from the olden days when the ball used to come out the other end rather than stay in the track with the other balls. And there's no reason why they haven't changed it to make it the same size. It should be, in my opinion. Pablo says the cue ball would travel way too far on an English table if they were the same size. What does it matter to any other cue sport? It's exactly the same. every other cue sport, the cue balls and the object balls are the same size and weight. That's the way it should be. It wouldn't travel too far. I've actually practiced English 8-ball with the same size and weight cue ball. It's miles better. You can play a lot more shots with the proper cue ball, and there's no reason why it's never been changed back to the same. That's just the reason why the cue ball was smaller. In my opinion, there's absolutely no reason now why they wouldn't play with the same size cue ball, and it would make the game better. But as for the cue ball rolling too far, that's just non-existent. That makes absolutely no difference. Every other cue sport, proper cue sport that is, they use the snooker, the 9-ball, the Chinese, all of the cue sports, they use the same size cue ball. Playing with the same size ball, just don't want to keep going on about that, but obviously people are writing in on the chat about it, and it will help the better cueists also. It isn't a natural reaction off the object balls when you're using the cue ball that is lighter and smaller. It does come off at a very different and strange angle when the ball when it's lighter and smaller. When you use the same size balls, it's a natural reaction. When the cue ball contacts the object ball, it comes off at a natural line, almost like the natural way it should go, rather than a way that it's only gone that way because the balls are smaller. Good shot there from Ronan. He played to screw off the side cushion there. He played to play that with bottom left-hand side. And he didn't get no side on. So when the cue ball come off the rail, he had no side on. So he's hit the black 4-ball and left him no shot. I don't think he's on the one over the pocket now. Yeah, so Seamus says a lot of clubs still use coin ops. Not a lot of clubs use coin ops. A lot of the clubs now use the domestic tables. Yeah, I understand a lot of... That's a great recovery. Ronan's held his hand up there because of the kiss he got on the cue ball, but it's a good recovery, and he's got a bit of angle on this. Yeah, not a lot of the clubs, they use domestic now, so you pay by the hour rather than have to put your money in. But we're not talking about, the lower end. I'm talking about playing in tournaments like this with the best fields in the world at the professional level. The cue ball should be the same size. What they choose to do down your local dog and duck is up to them. down your local dog and duck, you might see a red table with blue and yellow balls, and the cue ball's bigger than the object balls. You know, what they do is, doesn't really matter. I'm talking about playing at the elite level. To take the game forward from a professional point of view, in my opinion, they should be the same size and weight. Ronan's clearly, deliberately took a little bit off his break, and I personally think that's the right thing to do. But I think he took a little bit too much off. He sort of just probably hit it at about 40%. I think the way to hit it is at probably about 70. Daniel thinks there's no real reason to change. Everyone plays and practices with a smaller white. It's all about opinions, Daniel, and I just said that was my opinion, that it should be changed. Doesn't mean it's right. I was just saying that that's the way I think it should be. And there is an option of still being able to use it on coin mechanism tables anyway. With the technology there is nowadays, it's easy to still do. There's still a lot of options that you can use, that the cue ball can still come out, even if it's the same weight and the same size. So the coin op isn't really an argument. It's about if the argument is whether to change to it. I mean, it doesn't make too much of a difference. But it's about opinions, and we'll leave that one there. When a table plays so fast and the cushions play so fast, you have to be careful that you don't start decelerating because you're scared of the cue ball getting away, or you're scared of it pinging off the cushion, or you're scared of getting hold of it too much, and then you start to be conscious of that, and then you start to decelerate because you're scared of getting through the cue ball too much. Malin did that yesterday against Phil a lot. he was decelerating and pulling out of the shot because he was scared of losing the cue ball. And I said that during the commentary, and he said it to me after the match, that that's what he was doing. And that's someone who, you know, strikes the ball as good as you'll see in Malian. Just stopped in his tracks there because obviously the black doesn't go into the right corner, and if he's too thin, he doesn't want to lose the cue ball, and he knows how fast these cushions are, so he has got to just drop this in. Playing it with left-hand side will kill the cue ball, kill the pace a little bit of the cue ball. That's the benefit he's got of this shot. The left-hand side will kill it a little bit. Like that. So I think Karl Sutton, as you probably heard through the commentary there, Karl Sutton was at 8-3 down. I think he's back to 8-6 now. Dennis said he didn't like it when they changed the balls. He prefers these ones now. The Pro Cup balls are by far better, Daniel, than the other ones, because they are the premium balls from Aramith. The other ones weren't. They were rubbish. They were inconsistent in the weights, and just generally rubbish. They weren't their premium, where the Pro Cup ones are the premium. That's what they use on, you know, the snooker. They use the ones in the gold and blue box, and those are the premium ones for the snooker. They use them for the American pool, they use them for the Chinese, and obviously they're the ones that we should be using here. So I agree, the balls are a far better quality. Declan's asked if I think all of the cloth should be the same. I mean, that's a minefield, isn't it? Because there's so many huge companies out there, cloth manufacturing companies, that produce all sorts of different cloth. And I don't think you can have all the cloths the same, one set cloth across the world. That's never going to happen for a start, but I don't think you can. For example, the number 10 cloth is probably the most expensive cloth in the world that they're playing on here. But the downside to it is it doesn't last very long because it's so finely shaven. So from a club's point of view, if you had to buy the number 10 for your tables and you're a busy club, after 2 months you're going to need to recloth them again. So that's the reason why they go for more of a thicker, heavy-duty cloth, because obviously they're longer lasting and it saves money. You only have to get them, some clubs don't even get them recloth once a year. If you had a number 10 cloth on, you couldn't possibly leave it on a year. It would just be threadbare, there'd be nothing left. So, hence the reason why some of them use the Simonis. Because it just lasts forever, it just ends up going like glass. Or I guarantee if you leave a number 10 cloth on for 6 months, it's just going to look and play horrendous. But it is, in my opinion, the best cloth in the world, the number 10. When they get it right, it's certainly the most responsive cloth. I am personally sponsored by Strachan, so maybe a bit of a biased opinion, but it's no shock that they use it in all of the major Q sporting events. For example, all the World Snooker use it on all their tables. They use it in all the Chinese 8-ball events. There is other cloth out there that is very good, by the way. That plays very similar. There's a lot of different companies. Adam's asked what's my view on the blue cloth. I actually like the colour of the blue cloth. I do think it looks good, the colour. I think it makes the reds and the yellows stand out more than it does on the blue, on the green. But it's all about how it plays. And I do think it makes the pockets play maybe a little bit too big on that cloth. But I do like the colour of it and the look of it, and it does give almost a unique identity to English 8-ball rather than, you know, using the standard deep blue or green. That's why for the rest of these series, hopefully they're going to use a unique grey cloth to give it a unique identity. So just going back to the pool, Ronan's obviously pulled ahead, and 7-3 is quite a big lead, and that's just gone wrong again there for Karl. He's just screwed back and played the cannon, got it wrong, and yes, he's got a double. And then he's looking if he can play the red inside the yellow cushion first. He doesn't mind a double though, Karl. He is very, very good at them. He's going to need to be good at them to pot this one. I was saying every time I looked over, I thought that Croxton was at the table or winning. I think he may have just lost. Marvin says no one better at doubling balls than Karl. Well, I think there's a few people that would have something to say about that. Phil Harrison, Adam Davies, Neil Raybone. But I agree, he is very good at them. The doubles were definitely my worst shot. I was absolutely rubbish. Oh, Pablo said Jimmy 185. All right, okay, sorry, I didn't. It was just Jimmy being Jimmy. But he was standing there shaking his head, having a sort of mumble to himself as he was putting his cue away. So I just presumed he'd lost. Ronan's missed the yellow there, sort of carelessly. I know it was on the rail, but carelessly, and you can see Karl's kneeling down there to check if he can get past the red to pot the one that's on the line. Good effort. That would have looked good from behind the cue, you know. I think he would have definitely thought that was in when he let it go. He missed it to the left knuckle as we look, because obviously it was tight. So you do err on hitting it obviously to that side when the red was in the way, but good effort. And Ronan has now got another chance. Connor's asked how did I get on in China. Yeah, I've only been back a couple of days. I lost in the last 16. I was almost 400 players. I think 384 players started, and I did start from the beginning. I wasn't seeded. I wasn't given a seeded spot, so because I don't play in any of those events, I did start from the beginning. I lost in the last 16 to one of the Chinese guys. When Karl missed that red, he rattled, came across the table and blocked one of the yellows. That's why Ronan played the cannon onto that yellow first shot, but he hasn't knocked it in the best of places. Last couple of shots, Ronan looks a little bit sort of wayward. A little bit all over the place with the cue ball, and even though you've got a lead of 7-3, you do need to put people to bed, especially someone with firepower like Karl. When you get these sort of chances, you just need to make sure you keep getting them. Because Karl won't keep making mistakes. He's too good a potter to do that. So, you know, when you've got opportunities like this that are sort of almost 8-9 times out of 10 finishes, you have to make sure you, when your opponent's down, you keep your foot on on the throat type thing. Good recovery. Not quite as easy as they look, these. They're obviously always easy if you put the cue ball exactly where you want it every time, but you just got to make sure he takes these in the right order. There might be a case for trying to screw straight down and play on the one that's on the top cushion next. As long as he doesn't play it and finish dead straight on the one across the back cushion, I think it's the shot to play. Providing he can get into the cue ball enough, that is, which I think he can. Yeah, he can just play it. So just screw down in the gap of the two reds. Like that. And as long as he doesn't finish dead straight, which he hasn't, it's perfect. See, he's got angly, and I would screw up I would just punch this and just stun the cue ball up towards that middle pocket. Because he'll either land on the first one into the left middle, or he'll land on the second one into the left corner. Under hit it, because obviously he was scared of snookering himself behind the black, so it was the right thing to do to under hit it. It's always one of them where you have to look, I'm better off being a little bit too short or a little bit too big. And so he hasn't got to do anything with the cue ball, he just has to pot the ball. Stayed down on that, it wasn't sure whether he'd hit it a little bit too fat, but it dropped in. Okay, we have another toilet break, so we'll pick it up when he comes back. It's a bad shot, obviously, to screw or stun straight off. Has to be a bad shot, and he did screw directly off there. You're just not hitting the front ball. You know, you have to hit the front ball in the middle, basically. I think Mark Farnsworth and Stephen Dempsey are 5 each. John Rowe and Craig Marsh are 7 each. Oh dear. And that's the problem. When you're cannoning into balls, you always run the risk of not being sure exactly where they're going. Karl's just told Ronan that this red's not touching, which means that he can drop into it. And I think he feels as though it's turned a touch there to the left. The Farnsworth-Dempsey game has been unbelievably slow. I mean, they've played 10 frames in 2 hours. Started at 9 o'clock, that match. If you heard that shout or scream, that was Marsh. He's obviously just made a mistake at 7 all over there against John. That is first to 8, it is the loser's side. He did have 2 shots, but makes a massive difference, that double going in. Got the pace of the table good now as well, Ronan. He's been very good as well, you know. He's done everything he's had to do, and he's hardly made a mistake. Yeah, he's fed off a few of Karl's mistakes, but, you know, in general, he has been very good. Although it's a good job he's got 2 shots this time. See, that's one of those where you have to be a million times harder rather than softer, because anywhere this end of the table, you've got 2 shots. He's left it in a place where it's not a gimme to set it up. Oh, his heart would have been in his mouth when he hit that. It's a good job the rails are quick. It is mentally hard when you lose so many frames that you should win, because with the chances that Karl's had first, you know, this match should be at least around level. Ronan's into the quarters. If he wins this, this is the qualification round. The loser of this will obviously still have just one more match to qualify. It is a good position to be in this match. I know, obviously you want to win, but if you lose, you do only have to win one more match to qualify. Once again, Karl's made a ball from the break, but he's got no easy ball to start with. Well, he's got an easy ball to start with, obviously, the yellow into the middle, but he doesn't want to go yellows. He wants to go reds, and he's got no easy shot. If he goes reds, the only ball he's got is the one that's closest to the cue ball into this bottom left corner. And that's the one he's playing. Very good shot right in the middle. And on those long balls, you know, he just doesn't look like he's going to miss. It's just the hard stuff when he's concentrated on, he's got right. It's just the easy stuff that he's been a bit careless with. Once again, he's made a ball, but he completely missed it. Well, he's made 3, but he completely missed it, the front ball. He almost like, it was almost like a cut break. And, you know, at this level, you need to at least be able to be hitting the front ball straight. Yeah, Adam said after Arjit beat Cousins yesterday, he's been flying along and he's now playing against Croxton, which is like the round before the losers qualification game. So effectively win that match and 1 more to qualify. He'll take that. Not as he played it. Ronan wants an angle here, so he can pot this and just stun over and take the ball that's on the left side rail next. Or does he? Maybe no, he leaves that. Maybe he leaves that there. Maybe he leaves that there until last, and if he's got the angle, he can screw straight back and land on the one that's on this right side cushion next and leave that as his last ball. Just depends on the angle he's got. My only concern if he plays on the one on the left side cushion now is if he finishes dead straight on it, it's a little bit awkward. Perfect. Could not have put it better with his hand. He's even landed with a little bit of an angle so he can get the cue ball off the rail, which is so important. If he'd have finished dead straight, it would have been a little bit awkward, but the fact he can get the cue ball off the rail means he can get the cue ball close to his last ball now. So has to be careful of the middle. So Joshua's asked for a shout out for Karl. Hello, Karl. He says he's sitting there with toothache. I hope the watching this match is taking away the pain of that a little bit. Watching some of these players can be a little bit like pulling teeth. The Dempsey-Farnsworth game is still going on. I'm not 100% sure what the score is. Maybe someone can have a quick look on Q score and drop it in the thing, but maybe around 6 each now. See, that's the way you need to break. You see how he got the cue ball in a dead straight line down the centre and he took some off the break? That's exactly how you should break. And if you can't hit the front ball, you know, straight like that, I mean, you know, see all these guys in the tournament are world-class players. You've got to be able to hit the front ball flush so you can get the cue ball coming back in a straight line. And when you do that and hit it exactly how Karl just did at that pace, for me, with this short rack, that's how you should break. Yeah, so the Hill-Sutton game is now 10-9 from 8-3 to Mick. And Farnsworth 6-5 up. But I can see that Dempsey is at the table over there. Dunster's still playing, so he hasn't chucked that one. Wow. Dunster 9-6, yeah, and Phil and Jordan Church 7s. Good shot there from Karl. The red that's in the middle of the table around the blue spot, he's left a perfect angle on that to pot it and just drift down and take the one next to the black into the same pocket. Landed a little bit closer to the red than he wanted to, but like I said, that side cushion especially, on where his tip is now, it does seem to be really, really quick. Oh, so he's played to play that with topspin, obviously on and off the top cushion, side cushion. Got too low on the cue ball and played it as a stun instead of a topspin. And because of what it was, because the cue ball was so close to the object ball, he sort of jumped up in the air because he was worried about double hitting it and obviously struck the cue ball in the wrong place. It was a little bit of a fiddly one, but they had a bit of a laugh at each other because excuse me. Yellows couldn't be better placed if Karl doesn't find something here. Ooh. They're laughing at each other again. That's twice. It's been millimeters from dropping in. Oh. He's all around the world, but he's still going. And to be honest, on these sort of shots, all the way through this match, and most of the time he doesn't look like missing, but he is 10-4 down, and he has got to get hold of the cue ball. Potted it, didn't get hold of the cue ball, but sort of just took his medicine and backs himself to pot these, so why not? Good finish. Has to hit the front ball flush. There, exactly like that. Well, he still hasn't made one, but at least he hit him better. That's how you should hit him. Once again, they're a little bit messy. Even though Ronan hasn't had any success off the break, and Karl has had more chances, I do think that he has left it a little bit awkward each time. Although Karl is obviously very good at that type of shot, you just have to give it a bit of care. Good shot. Those three reds that are in a line there obviously don't go into any of the pockets on the left side, but they do go into the ones on the right, so he'll just pot this, stun the cue ball dead, and then pot the other one that's in the bulk and come off the top cushion, side cushion, and take those into the right side of the table. Right, this for a shot. Very good. Sort of worked out of that shot that screwing on off the top cushion, the line was coming down that side of the table, and he obviously had a choice of 4 balls to land on. So, and the same with this shot. Really, he's going to go off the top cushion, back down that same line, target would have been exactly there to land on that one. Wow, great shot. Oh, he's just winced, which tells me he's a little bit short, but playing on choices of balls there, which is clever. Not sure if he can just pot this and stun onto the bottom yellow, so not the one that's on the line, but the other one. I don't know if he can just got the angle to just stun onto that one. If he has, I would play that shot. I think he can play that. He's going to screw around 2 cushions, I think. Oh, no. Well, that's what you call taking your medicine. Hit it nice, and although I wouldn't have played the shot he played just to leave that ball, I think I would have played something else. It does tell you that he's very confident. You know, he fancies potting everything. So this for a match and the place in the quarterfinals. And what's been a really good performance there from Ronan. He'll be really happy with that, and it's a really good win. Karl still isn't out. That puts him into the loser's side, but that's in the winner's match of the loser's side, so he only has to win 1 more match to get through. I'm not sure who he plays or the winner of which match he plays. I'm also not sure who's coming next on this table. You can go to the Facebook page where they'll tell you the next matches, and obviously the Q score draw, you'll be able to see who Karl plays. Obviously, well done to Ronan. That's him in the quarters. A few hours off and wait for the draw.